Coming to you from Wayland-Yutani Corporation headquarters in Burbank, California, this is the Film versus Film podcast. I am your host, Quinn Boys. I have written over 12 Victorians romance novellas in my lifetime, and I am joined, as always, by three-time back-to-back champion and still reigning victor of the podcast. He's incubating an alien in his chest, Leonard Smith Jr. What's up, Leonard?
Oh, what an opening. Thank you to my number one fan, Quinn Boys.
Hang on.
You're my number one fan, but please don't lock me up in a room. As you know, the entire series of novels, Misery, was written and composed because of Quinn Boys. He was the motivation because of these last 3 seasons of him losing. But right now, he's trying to be the Boston Celtics and make a comeback. Will he do it? Who knows?
Trying to beat you over the head with a typewriter right now.
Yeah, he also tricked me. He was like, yeah, you want somebody to sit on your face? And I was like, yeah. And then next thing you know, I'm pregnant. So thanks a lot for that, Quinn.
I told you, man, you got to be more discerning about who you bring home from the bars.
If you're listening and you don't know what the movies are yet, you haven't looked at our Instagram story and you're like, what are they fucking talking about? We don't even know what we're talking about. We're trying to figure it out. Thanks to the friend of the pod and screenwriter, the guest of the day, Jason Hellerman. What's up, Jason?
Woo! What's up, guys? I had no idea we'd get into face sitting this early, but I'm about to spread my cheeks and take a seat. Let's do this.
Yeah, this podcast, not to get gross right away, but it features a famous ass man and famous face sitter coming to meet on the podcast. I am neither of those two people.
Wait, so am I the face sitter? Because I'm also an ass man.
No, you're the ass man.
Okay, I'm the ass man. Okay, good. He's the sitter. Okay, he's spreading the cheeks. That's right. I don't know.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I mean, yeah. I know
we'll find out.
Famous already, but yeah.
We'll find out my sexual kink before the end of the episode. But we are talking with Jason. Here's what Jason is famous for. Jason, you are famously a Philly guy. How's life absolutely as a Philly transplant? Leonard's from Georgia. I'm from New Jersey. We got 3 East Coasters on the podcast. And I don't know if we've had a Philly guy. Yeah.
I don't have really any beef. Well, it's fuck the Phillies always. I'm a Braves guy,
as a Braves fan, and at least the rivals, of course.
Yeah. So that's pretty much it. The Eagles. My dad liked the Eagles growing up.
I can take that.
And
they got some good songs.
I like Donovan McNabb. Some good songs.
Was he based?
But no beefs with Philly. I might go to Philly this year. The Saints are playing Philadelphia like December 27th. So
yeah,
I may.
Yeah, Leonard's from where would you? Is it fair to say? And I know the various places you've grown up, Leonard. But if you were to say, if someone's like Leonard is from blank, would you rather they say Atlanta, North Carolina, South Carolina? What's the?
I would say Atlanta. I lived there the longest in my life, and it doesn't suck like Lynchburg, Virginia. Lynchburg, Virginia is awful.
Oh, Virginia, that's right. Where'd I get the
when I tell people I'm from Lynchburg, Virginia, they're like, what? It's called Lynchburg? And I'm like, yeah. Okay, it's named after John Lynch. He founded the city. He was famous for hanging niggas.
It's a good, and it's like...
I delivered that joke so wrong, but it's okay.
No, I think you just delivered it to an audience scared of how hard they're going to laugh at it.
Yeah, you guys can't laugh at that.
Well, we can, but it has to be within a certain range of laughing. If you're knee slapping, then it's a little bit. Anyway, so if you choose Atlanta, that means I can call you a fraud for being from Atlanta, but repping the Saints and the Chicago Bulls. Leonard, you need a little bit of regional consistency.
Yeah,
I'm all New York.
I know.
New Jersey.
Man. I chose the Saints before I moved to Atlanta, and I think that's just that like hater energy in me. It's just like it knew I was a chosen one. So
Jason, you are Philly through and through. Do you ever wish you could switch cities?
No, sometimes I wish I wasn't alive. I mean, but other than that, sometimes the darkness creeps in. I want to turn the lights off for good. But other than that, being a Philly fan is amazing.
Okay.
Lots of near misses and unchecked anger that someday I'll pass down to my children, and they'll also have to do intensive therapy, and write checks to Better Health after James Harden only takes 2 shots in the second half of an elimination game. But look, that's enough about me. I don't want to derail this whole thing, while I fully melt down and get angry. But
let's talk about.
And I have respect for Georgia. That's all.
Yeah, Georgia's cool. Georgia's not cool. Atlanta's cool. Georgia sucks.
Big peach guy over here. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, I love a peach. Anyways, speaking of I was today.
Speaking of peaches.
Yeah. Today we have a very fun topic, not your, average us, best sports, best Halloween. We're
Best
talking
Georgia
about
movie.
women, not just any women, but women on the edge.
The edge.
And I feel like that's a lot of women right now in the country.
And we're
So
talking
it's-
about
it's
women
fitting.
as only 3 guys on a podcast can.
Yeah. The most important people to have this conversation. Yeah.
We had we stumbled on this prompt. It was a little bit of a prompt by committee. Jason, I am curious. There's no wrong answer here because,
Sure.
like I said, we kind of came to this organically. What does a movie about a woman or women on the edge mean to you? I mean, it's somewhat self-explanatory. I guess it's right in there. But does that recall certain tropes? You know what I mean? Like if it was like a horror
Totally,
movie, you
yeah.
think about
In my mind, Woman on the Edge, it's sort of like a niche genre in that like it's about character more than it's about plot, right? So any sort of plot can fit in this, but ideally the main character or maybe even the antagonist, protagonist, antagonist, whatever, is someone who just like you would be afraid to be in the same room with. It's not necessarily like a good or bad afraid. I think it's mostly like somebody who is a little bit terrorizing. And I always think of it as like, if they're in your family, like how would you react to them? And these are people like on the edge. I think that sort of speaks for itself, like someone who's like going a little crazy and the rest of the world is dealing with them as they start to lose it. So, yeah.
I think
Nice.
I think that's well put. And I also think, like you say, Jason, to build off that, I guess, like to me, as we were interpreting the prompt and getting you our picks, it's like, unfortunately, and only until very recently, like there have been women in films since the beginning of film, but in terms of like main characters or even, God forbid, behind the camera or writing this, I feel like it's a different kind of movie than the kind of love interest or like the His Girl Friday or like the kind of girl who can hang, stereotype, reliable, whatever. This is like, whether it's because they're badass or because they'll cut you or because whatever, this is a little bit more of like, hang on, this is not your kind of typical stereotypical film character. So I feel like only in like the second half of film history have we started to see these movies come up.
Yeah, because normally it's men on the edge because men are just fucking insane and unhinged
Exactly.
and doing whatever. We're used to seeing that, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But women, like you said, when do you think this like trope or this genre or this type of movie started? Like, is there?
It'd be hard to pinpoint the exact movie, but I'd say like probably in the late 50s, early 60s, you had stuff like All About Eve and What Happened to Baby Jane, and then also Sunset Boulevard, where we're presented with women who have sort of gone crazy. And before, I think you're totally right. The badass male caricature of like a guy getting revenge or going nuts was so prevalent. It was both in monster movies and, like I said, revenge or war movies or just like, again, people on the edge was very popular. And we really didn't extend that to anybody. I think like if I had to pinpoint the start, maybe All About Eve is like the at least the most mainstream one where I could say like, here's one about a Hollywood actress who's starting to lose it. And then Sunset Boulevard, I think, again, both coincidentally Billy Wilder movies, cementing it into the lexicon of like, oh, you can do this. There is a place for it. And also an audience, right? Like these genres wouldn't catch on if people didn't watch and love these movies. But yeah, like that's probably around the time. I'm sure someone in the comments will correct me and tell me the exact time. But
Okay,
for me, that's what I
everything
say.
you just said, it didn't make any sense to me because I didn't even know movies were made before 1984. Maybe
this is
movies were made.
Strong prejudice against pre-1984 movies, Jason. We just don't. The cameras were worse, everyone was in black and white. They look different. And so we just throw all those movies out. We start 1984 on like any respectable film podcast should.
If a movie is in black and white, it's just divisive. Okay. We're not trying to have a race.
It's low key racist. Probably.
It's low key racist.
Why are you
that's the
presenting
problematic feeling coming out. Yeah, exactly. If I had to pick only in the 80s, I feel like you guys have picked titles that maybe would spawn the earliest you could go back.
When we finally came up with Women on the Edge, was there a movie that came to mind instantly to you, or did you have a thought on what you would choose for this prompt?
Sure, yeah. I mean, look, I probably would have gone with Sunset Boulevard, one of these older movies, or
again, not sure what that is. It's a street. Right. I know it's a street.
Yeah. If I had to go current, I would have gone Terminator 2. That would have been my pick.
Oh,
Yeah,
which we've done. Which
Yeah,
we've done.
covered.
So yes, we've
True,
done. But
yeah,
that
that
is
was
a very good choice.
that was on our Robots on the Edge episode, unfortunately. So
Yeah,
I didn't want to
perfect.
double up.
I don't think I've fully watched this movie, and if I had, maybe it would have been my choice. But when it just came to mind as we were talking here, and that was Audition.
Oh yeah, great one. Yeah,
I'm not familiar with that movie at all. What is that?
it's a
Audition
horror
is,
movie. Actually,
is a Korean film or is it Japanese?
it's Korean. Yeah.
It's Korean, and
Oh,
Let's double check.
we
Leonard,
should maybe
keep talking.
Google that one. Yeah.
it's about a young woman, and she goes out to audition for like either like a role. I don't know if it's in a play or a movie, but it was all like a farce. It was just this dude, like, I think, like trying to like hit on her or find a way to like date her or something. And she's just like, you see her, she goes to this audition, and then you come back to her house and you like are in her house, and it's literally just like nothing in her apartment, and it's just her phone, and it's just like her waiting by the phone to see if she got this part, and like it's just like her like going crazy and just waiting to see if she's got this part, and then I think she like and get some revenge or something.
Yeah,
That sounds like a very interesting Japanese movie, Leonard.
Okay.
Great. Yes. Is it Takashi Miike? Is that too?
Oh, now you're gonna make me look it up again.
There you go.
All right.
I also like.
Every question about Audition has to be out in the next 30 seconds. Sorry, I'm not pulling up this tab again. Yes, Takashi Miike.
Yes. Yeah, I know. I didn't want to. I should have gone with Japanese. I knew that. But I also love Young Adult. I don't know if you guys have seen that Charlize Theron movie.
No,
I have not, but I know what you're talking about with Patton Oswalt.
Yeah, it's on HBO Max right now. You can check it out. We can stop and go. But that one also came to mind in terms of like something current. But that one's amazing. It's about a woman who finds out her high school boyfriend and his wife have had a kid, and she goes back to her hometown to win him back. She's like, "Oh, that sounds awful. I'll go free him and take him away with me." And that's like pure psychotic behavior. And that's easily one of my favorite films, maybe of all time. But I just think like full psychosis of somebody. And the whole movie is about unwrapping that and also sort of being on her side, but like cringe comedy, like I think a lot of these do fall into that. Yeah.
Okay.
That sounds great. Let's take a quick 90 to 2 hour break, 90 minute to 2 hour break. We're just going to go watch Young Adult. We'll be right back. Okay, welcome back to the Film versus Film podcast. We have just all watched Young Adult. We found it delightful. Leonard, what was your favorite part?
Charlize Theron.
Yeah, absolutely. Can't go wrong there. Yeah.
You know what my favorite was?
What was that?
Patton Oswalt.
You guys crushed it.
I'm a big fan of the HBO Max app, but there were some sound problems. There were some mixing problems, and that's all I really have to say. Yeah, that's about it.
Wow, okay, that's a bummer. For me, I got all of the Young Adult in, and it was no problem for me. Well, we're here to talk about Young Adult and also two other films that we chose for this prompt. We've hinted at them. We've circled around them. But Leonard, why don't you get us started? Talk about the movie you picked and why you picked it.
Well, Jason said earlier that he would have chosen Terminator 2. And I feel like this kind of falls in that same category. It's a sequel. It's a female lead. I guess with Terminator 2, with Arnold. Anyways, it doesn't matter. I'm talking about the movie Aliens with an S.
Yeah.
With an S, not Alien, but Aliens. It is James Cameron directed. It is a very different movie than the first movie. The first one is like what, a horror
haunted house.
Yeah, it's a horror haunted house movie.
Sci-fi.
And this one is more of a suspenseful thriller action movie. It's basically an action movie. It really ramps up in the second half, second act, third act. We are following Sigourney Weaver's character, Ripley, and she has been in space. She escaped the ship. If you've seen the first Alien, she escapes the ship in a pod. She is in hypersleep. She finds out that she's been asleep for 49 years when she gets salvaged.
57 years.
57 years. 57 years when she gets rescued by the ship. And lo and behold, this ship is holding a crew that is about to go to a planet that has been maybe cultivating these species, or where she landed and originally saw the alien species. And instead of taking her home, she is now the only human being that has seen these species. So she is now a part of the mission, and she is not about it. We see that she is having issues. She is for sure on the edge. She cannot sleep. In her psych evaluation, apparently, I don't know how Paul Reiser knows this, but she wakes up every single night and from the same exact dream. And
they have that technology in the future. They can.
Yeah, I don't know how he knows.
It's a wonderful future. Yeah,
she's been in this fucking pod for 57 years, and he's known her for like a month. I don't know the timing of how long she's in the ship before they go to the planet is kind of weird. I don't know how long they don't really.
But is that a pacing issue with the movie, or is that just in space when you're not rotating around a sun? You know, how do you really pass the time?
It's dark a lot. Yeah,
it's all one long day.
So we go on the mission. She tries to warn everyone about the level of these aliens, how serious the situation is, and no one is taking her seriously. They all think she's just some civilian woman who doesn't know what she's talking about. She's blowing things out of proportion. And then we learn that she's right and that she's fucking badass. And we find a little girl on this planet, the only survivor, and this obviously is kind of a main driving point of the movie and gives Ripley some, I guess, humanity. Where she, look at that, where she was a cold-hearted fucking just straight up gangster who didn't give a fuck about much, but now there is something that is bringing her back from the edge and kind of the driving force for her to survive, and it's a pretty goddamn good movie.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think we'd all seen this movie before, so we don't have to go through our normal round of, have you seen this? But I will say, like, Leonard, you did a great job summarizing it, but I feel like if you're really trying to sell someone on Aliens, all you really need to say is, like, this movie just sort of kicks ass. Like, it's just like a full... You're absolutely right. Like, the first thing you said, I think, is, like, the most important, whereas, like, Ridley Scott made a really brilliant, scary, unique, fucked up, like haunted house horror movie in a sci-fi genre. And then so like he was already melding the genres, and then it's like, how do we do it again? It's a sequel that came out 7 years after the original, and they're like, why don't we just fucking make it like, why don't we put a bunch of you know what I want to see? Like, it's almost like the worst idea how sequels are all escalation. It's like there should be a bunch of aliens, not just the one, and when we just got guys with machine guns just killing them and lighting them on fire, and it's like, that sounds stupid, but when you get James Cameron, who's such a wonk for like military specifics and doing everything practical or as practical as you can, like, yeah. So Alien: The Way of Water is just like a total triumph, I think, for me.
It's kind of crazy because it feels like this was kind of the start of the genre. Like, this came out before Predator, this came out before like Terminator 2. It was like I don't know if there were many movies that were like this, like action centric with like fantastical elements as well, sci-fi, fantastic.
No, yeah, it definitely built a genre. I think maybe I'll get this wrong, but like James Cameron had written a script. It wasn't greenlit, but people loved it. It was coming back around. People, I would say, like at the time, like he was kind of just this young firebrand of like, is this guy any good? He's sort of a genius technically, and
he'd made Terminator, right? Just to get the timeline right. Not the second one, but the first one, I think.
I think he had written Terminator, or he had written it. Nobody would make it. Then he did this. Because this is what, 1980. Terminator is 84. This is 86. Yeah, so the first
86. I'm gonna real quick, just so he had made the Terminator 2 years prior. Before that, the only thing he'd done is Piranha 2, which I've never seen, but I know people talk about. Whatever. So it was Terminator, Aliens, and then The Abyss in 1989. That was his 80s. So this was his second big movie after Piranha, and Terminator.
I think the story goes like, people were so impressed with the script he wrote, they let him make the Terminator, and he that's like a almost fully independently financed movie with people chipping in and whatever. Then a studio acquired it, and then from acquiring it, they were like, you can go do Aliens now. This is
it was a big budget. This is the big budget version of that, and I was about to go somewhere with that, but I lost it.
Well, I'll just say, like, talking about the era of Stallone, because Schwarzenegger and Stallone are action movie guys at this point. The first Rambo had come out by this time, and maybe even the second one. So the idea of like someone walking around with a big friggin' machine gun just picking people off was not totally unique. But the cool thing about this, and we've seen Jim Cameron do it again with the Terminator movies, is that like, it's instead of 250-pound slab of beef Arnold Schwarzenegger, you have in shape, but fairly
Yeah.
skinny and otherwise unimposing Sigourney Weaver just kicking ass in this movie, which is a cool
I don't know
thing
if
to
she's
see.
unimposing, man. There's something about her.
I think you might think she's unimposing until you see her kick some ass. But yes,
Yeah.
I mean, she's.
I will say that when she wakes up in this movie, she is already on the edge, and you already it benefits from like the audience being on her side because you know what she's been through. You know, and the crew is like so far behind on like, oh, it's an alien. Oh, it's like a big alien that vomits acid. Like I don't know about that, but it's like we're already sort of with her. So like I would, I'm going to be on Leonard's side here. I do think she is imposing in a way because you know what she's already survived, and then you know how bad it could be. Like the first Alien movie, I think if there's just, aside from the face huggers, one alien, and in this they're like, what if there were a planet full of them? It's such a scarier idea of like, one took out a whole ship. What if we have a ton of them?
Talking about scary ideas, let's talk about Quinn's movie.
Ooh, you're right. I picked...
I don't know. I'm going to ask a question after we discuss what your pick is.
Okay. I picked Misery. It's the 2010 single from Maroon 5. It went to #1 on the U.S. Adult Top 40 and the Venezuelan pop rock general. Off their album Hands All Over, it features the classic songwriting group. We got Adam Levine on vocals. We got Jesse
When did you come up with this joke? When did you come up with this joke?
Probably 15 minutes after I picked the movie. No, come on. We all know what I'm talking about. I'm talking about the James Caan, Kathy Bates two-hander Misery, based on the Stephen King novel of a struggling writer who actually he's not a struggling writer, a writer struggling to be something more, to be something else. He's written a series of novels about a Victorian romance novels about a main character named Misery, which have brought him great success, but he wants to do something else. He wants to do something a little bit more mature, a little more adult, a little bit more outside the realm of what people are expecting from him. And he gets in a little bit of trouble. His car goes off the road. He winds up unconscious in a ditch, and he is saved by maybe fair to call her an archangel, but that's probably even a little bit too charitable, of Annie Wilkes. Brings him back home, fixes him up. Unfortunately, his legs are broken, and he soon winds up realizing
they're not even just broken. They're
mangled.
Yeah. Mangled. That's the word. Yeah. The word is
it's
mangled.
a real injury. Yeah.
Well, it gets worse there, but he finds his legs are broken. He is effectively a prisoner in her Colorado home where they are snowed in, or they may as well be, and she's keeping him bedridden, keeping him hostage, and she forces him to write the ending for Misery, or rather bring her back to life and write the continuing adventures of Misery that she feels that character deserves. And Misery, as you may have by this point picked up, is a double entendre because James Caan is also experiencing misery. So it's a very small, I wouldn't say the stakes are small, but I get like it's a small scale horror movie, especially from what you're used to seeing from Stephen King. I have read the novel from this one. I actually read the book before I wound up seeing the movie. It took me a little.
Wow.
I don't think I saw this movie until I was in like high school or college for the first time. And it took me a little bit, but I'd read the book, and the book is like maybe the scariest Stephen King book I've read. Like
really?
There's something real fucked up about the psychology of this story.
I was going to say, I feel like reading that would be so frustrating. I feel like that would just, but it's scary.
He gets into some things where he's describing her as like some sort of like long dead ancient golem, kind of like the behind the eyes. There's nothing behind the eyes, and the language he uses, and also just the predicament of being. I think for some people, like the clown from It is very scary. Never actually terrified me in my day to day because I don't believe in that. But people are crazy, and the idea that this woman is psychotic on the edge. She may be over the edge. I think at times she wobbles on that edge, and the idea that she like holds his life in her hands. And what Kathy Bates brings out from the movie and from the story so well is that at times she's almost quite normal. Like she can be nice, and I think it's that veneer, that thin layer of like that we put on for the outside world, and then you see the crazy underneath is pretty frightening to me. I've seen that with Leonard many times. Leonard goes full misery. He
just locks you up.
No, he's shaking his head. No, Leonard, I'll be honest with you, man. When I started giving that description, for those that are just listening and cannot see this, which is most people, Leonard did this move where he leaned back and his eyes went wide. And I said, oh no, Leonard watched the wrong movie. And I was like, I'm just going to keep going until he tells me to stop. Leonard, what about my summary bothers you?
No, I'm just thinking about, I hate this woman. I just hate her. Like, I mean, the movie is it's a great movie. And you're just discussing, I'm just thinking about, there's some I was just thinking about how this woman seems like a QAnon fucking like crazy.
The internet would not have been good for this woman.
Yeah, she would have been, it would have been bad.
She would not have helped.
She would have been like some QAnon crazy, like alt-right, I feel like, type person, but she also killed babies. So it's like, pick a lane.
Yeah. Yeah.
What are you doing?
Just do one thing.
You're supposed to save that. You're a baby killer. Like, but that is a reveal in the third act that we're like, okay, she is crazy. Like the reason why I was shaking my head was because she's not on the edge. This bitch she's in outer space. She is Ridley. She is gone, bro. There is no edge. Okay. She is, the earth is flat and she's fucking somewhere else. Okay. She's Kyrie Irving, like on crack. Like, I don't know what's happening. She is unhinged, bro. And it was great. It's such a good fucking movie, man. Just like the reason why I am a person, like, sexually, I'll tell you what my kink is not.
Oh, wonderful.
And that is not being restrained in any type of way, not being in control, like being tied to a bed, being stuck in something. That is like a fear. Like, it's not even a fear because it's not.
What about that time you got?
It's not something I ever want to be in a position.
What about that time, Leonard? You were getting your clothes out of the dryer and you got stuck. Was that?
Oh, that was terrible. Someone put their dick in my butt. It was awful. I was stuck.
You know, it was a crime of opportunity. Jason, as someone that we have hobbled and strapped to a bed to be on this podcast, as a screenwriter, for real though, does this resonate with you? Like, you are used to writing stories, writing scripts, putting them out there, having them read by people, and would you rather like someone give you like lukewarm feedback to your latest script, or would you rather they take a sledgehammer and kneecap you? What's the preference? So I feel like it's a very writerly movie. It's written by a writer about a writer.
Yeah, I can see you trying to appease me. That won't go unnoticed. So much of Misery is just relatable. I think, look, as a writer, but also just like something we talk about all the time. I feel like now on Twitter, it's like toxic fandom, right? Like all these people bullying people into being like, restore the Snyderverse. Marvel's Phase 4 should have blah, blah, blah. And it's like fans have become so entitled and so insane that they maybe don't realize that they are Kathy Bates in Misery. And they are like, I mean, look, you see all the crazy fan interaction. Like, they are willing to hobble people to get whatever they want, you know, or like,
it does not seem that far-fetched. It does not seem like an insanely far-fetched movie.
That's what's so scary about it. It's not that it's not far-fetched. I mean, that this crazy person would be his biggest fan, but then it's like, it's not that far-fetched because she moved there because she knows that that's where he writes all his books. So it's like the scenario is very believable to me, and it's just like, you know how I am. I'm like, oh, that's a reach, or this feels like they wrote this just to, and then it's like, no, this all feels very real. The only thing that I was like, I questioned a little was like, nobody knew this bitch was killing all these babies. She was in all these newspapers and shit. Nobody knows. He didn't realize until he saw her almost like have some fucking road rage. So it took a road rage incident for him to be like, wait a second.
Pre-internet,
didn't she kill a bunch of babies?
Yo, man, you can go off the grid in Colorado easy, I think.
Yeah.
You can just get a little shack.
So many of these people. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I mean,
okay, I have a question.
Toxic fandom point is well put, Jason. Sorry, Leonard, your question.
What scenario would you rather be in? Would you rather be stuck in a room with the super fan, like the original moment of waking up, both your legs are mangled, and this woman is taking care of you? Or would you rather have woken up after being in hypersleep for 57 years and then being like, oh, we're going to a planet with all the aliens, possibly?
Can I answer this one first? Because I feel like I've got a take. So I aim to please, just as a general rule. And I feel like every time I see movies like Misery, or, you know, anything where like a character is forced to kind of weigh his like principles versus his well-being, I guess what I'm saying is I would have been Annie Wilkes's number one patient. The second that I found out things are going wrong, I'd be like, yeah, I'll write this new book for you. What? How do you want it? Do you want to be in the book, Annie? Like, oh, this character named Annie is Misery's best friend. And I just pound out that novel, and then I just give her everything she wants until she let me go, until my leg healed and I could just walk out of that.
She's never letting
you
go.
No, he's
never
gotta be
letting you go, bro.
No, she'd let me go. I'd be nice. We'd be buddies.
For me, I think getting notes is a difficult and annoying process in general. And knowing that I'd have to get them from a fucking idiot over and over again forever is like not, I'd say
that's scarier than a planet full of acid.
Absolutely. Yeah, like aliens. At least on a planet you have some agency. It's like you feel like you can fight back.
You get to use a flamethrower.
Nice. Exactly. Yeah, get away from her, you bitch. Like there's a cat. There's a kid named Newt. Like win-win, game over, man. Like you have other people around to commiserate with. You could not pay me money to stay in a cabin for an hour with Kathy Bates in Misery. I love Alien Planet all day.
Aliens are scarier than getting notes from an idiot.
Absolutely, yeah.
All right, Leonard, same question. What would you rather?
I want the agency. I want the freedom. I want to be able to fucking blast and go out into glory, possibly, than be fucking. You can't even kill yourself. You're just stuck in this room. Like, you can't do anything. You have no power. So I'm 100%. I'm not fucking with Misery. Ain't no way.
The book is also not to, I've read the book ages ago and I don't have that many more specifics about it to recall. But in the book, it's like, Jay, you've read the book, right? I feel like
I have read the book. Yes,
okay.
Yeah.
She like cuts parts of him off. So the hobbling,
it's way more brutal. Yeah.
As gruesome as it is, she literally like takes fingers and stuff first when he won't write. And it's like, that's why that book to me was so terrifying. And I realized I just chose that scenario. But again, I think I could sweet talk my way into
she takes fingers. This motherfucker's a writer. He needs to type.
That's what I'm saying. Like she keeps his like space bar and his digits. Yeah. It's fucked, man.
It's
messed up.
Yeah.
Okay, so we've talked about both these movies. I want to go back to, let's shift back to Alien for a moment, because there's a lot going on in Alien, and Aliens. I got to be honest.
Aliens.
Sorry, there's a lot going on in Aliens. That's my one problem with the movie, is I think just slapping an S on something in Aliens, it's the most fitting.
Have you heard the story about James Cameron like apparently trying to pitch this script to the movie? Okay, the studio,
the executives,
the executives. He just put Alien, and then he put a money symbol after it on a whiteboard and just walked away.
See, I would have loved it if they did that. If it was just Aliens, ka-ching, like it was with the money sign through it. Keep that. What?
James Cameron's famous for having those crazy pitches. When he did Terminator, he paid a guy to dress like Arnold in the original Terminator, and then to break down the door of an executive, like push through and like push him against the wall and like freak him out. Like, and he was like, just to like prove that it was scary. And I always think like that's maybe something you can get away with in the 80s. But if I did that now, I would be in handcuffs. You would be Kathy Bates in Misery, right? That is like the character. Yeah.
He threw hot coffee on an exec and he goes, now imagine if that was acid blood.
Right. Exactly.
You feel that burning? Think about it going 5 levels deeper. Are you were going to say something about Aliens, Quinn?
Yes. So like, this movie has I don't think it's like, as far as like director's cuts go, the version that made it into theaters is kind of the accepted version. There's not that much controversy. David Fincher, who made Alien 3, I know there's a whole, I never even seen that movie. There's a whole like the assembly cut versus the cut that came out versus David Fincher doesn't like any of them. It doesn't matter. But Aliens is like, apparently I saw a version of this movie the first time I ever saw it, which was like 15 years ago or something. I watched it on TV, and it was probably AMC or something. And they were promoting, I kind of didn't realize it until later, that this was like the director's cut with like deleted scenes added in. This was the era of DVDs and making movies worse by adding scenes that were cut out for good reason. So I wound up watching this movie on TV, and they added a lot of scenes. One such scene, which to me, because it took me a number of years before I wound up seeing this movie again, so I just had it in my head as canon, is when Ripley is defrosted, and in the future, she's 57 years after the events of Alien. Paul Reiser, who is such a smarmy, like, first of all, he really like kind of just when 25, however many years later he was making Avatar, I feel like James Cameron just gave the DVD of Aliens to Giovanni Ribisi, and he said, "You're playing this character. You're Paul Reiser, the guy who cares about money over everything else. That's you." Anyway, there's a couple Avatar similarities, but he's like, he tells her about the time, and she freaks out, and there's that very effective scene where it winds up she's dreaming. But what is also revealed is that she had a daughter in the original Alien. She had a daughter somewhere back on Earth, I guess. And in the 57 years that she's been frozen, that daughter has grown to be an old lady and even actually died, even though she was only 11 in the original. I guess she died a little young. And Ripley freaks out. And that informs so much of the rest of the movie. Like the fact that she finds Newt, and she's so protective of Newt, and she goes back. And now I actually kind of like that they cut it out, because I think Ripley being more of a cipher kind of works better. And I don't think you need to, we're talking about women on the edge, I don't think you need to make her a mother already for her to want to save a struggling little girl. But apparently Sigourney Weaver, when she found out that had been cut, was bummed, because she's like, well, this informed my whole performance. I was playing a character who had a daughter that she found out was grown and died, like the end of Interstellar or whatever. And it's just a very interesting thing that when I saw this movie again, I forgot that I'd seen it. Again, I've seen it in the interim, but I was like, oh yeah, she doesn't have the daughter. I always forget that she doesn't have the daughter in the official version of this movie. That's
pretty pertinent information, because when that happened and it was like 57 years, I was like, damn, everybody she knows is dead. But then I was like, Ripley doesn't
seem to have many friends.
Exactly.
She doesn't have any family, so this doesn't really mean anything. But now knowing that, it's like, damn, that changes the whole dynamic of the entire movie.
Because there's the whole thing where, like, I told her I was going to be back for her 11th birthday. That's a little Disney to me, because it's like, why would you go on this ship and like the original Alien? That character does not feel like she has a kid. And granted, there's no one way that you act when you have a kid. It feels like they just shoehorn that in, and I'm kind of glad they took it out. But to me, that I was like, what about the daughter? And it was very funny. I was halfway into this movie where I realized, probably when they met Newt, that I'm like, oh yeah, this no longer registers the same way.
It definitely is interesting. I did not know that. It's interesting on different levels, because I always think Aliens is like the perfect Mother's Day movie, right? Because you have this sort of you have so much of what we talk about in Aliens is the queen, right? You have the queen, and she's always protecting her egg sacs and whatever, and then I think juxtaposing that against Sigourney Weaver's character Ripley, like protecting Newt, who is also like an orphan left behind. I felt like they were both like orphans. There's something there, and if you add in the daughter element, obviously it sort of puts all that stuff on the nose. Like, she's repairing her daughter, when what I think is like maybe more subtle is the idea of like two women who are completely left behind of their crews eaten by aliens. It's like more of like a generational thing. I think you get the mom thing out of it without it being. It's way more subtle. It's interesting that she was bummed, and I could see how it informed her performance, but really, like, for me, the performance in that movie is the PTSD of what happened in Alien. She's like, I just got out of a haunted house. It was terrible. I fell asleep. I thought I was going to be saved. And instead you're bringing me to a much worse haunted house. Like, that kind of thing of like the terror of that. And also just like the idea of like, when will I ever, like, I thought I escaped once. How can I escape again?
And the fact that this is happening to her, and the whole experience on the ship in Alien was like literally 2 days ago. Like, it was like,
exactly.
Or by the time they get to the planet, it was like, oh, that was a week ago or 2 weeks ago that I just fucking dealt with this.
I also love that thing where she's given her debrief in the corporate offices, and they're like laughing. First of all, we know from the military unit later, which, if I have another very minor critique, I love all the military stuff. Bill Paxton, R.I.P., Michael Bain, all those guys are great. Vasquez and the whole crew. He establishes a bunch of grunts in a very short period of time. It's a very economical movie. I'm very impressed by watching it again. But that scene where she's being debriefed before she goes on the trip, and they're like, an alien with acid blood? Like, they're looking at her like she has two heads, as if like the very idea of life on Earth. But then you go with the military scene, and you got, I think it's Paxton or one of them talking about, he goes, is this gonna be another bug squish? Like, I hate killing bugs. So it's like, we know that there are other life forms, other aliens, that in fact the military now is in some kind of business of going to and annihilating. So the idea that Sigourney
and trying to
Weaver's
weaponize. And,
right.
Well, I guess the military is Paul Reiser's character.
Sigourney Weaver's like, yo, there's some bad ones on here, and they're like, yeah, right. Like it's a weird thing where it's like if you believed in poltergeist or some kind of benign ghost, and then someone's like, well, this one's angry, you'd be like, okay, like you wouldn't still treat them like ghosts aren't real. Like they're treating her like aliens don't even exist. And then the military is like, well, we fucking kill aliens all the time. So it's a weird switch there. But yeah, I mean, what a thrill ride. I mean, James Cameron movies just really don't stop happening. Like once they kind of get going, they
have an engine. Yeah, he knows what he's doing, and so you're like, this is what, a 2 hour and 20-minute movie, but it just kind of like, it hits the gas pedal the whole time, and I do feel like you're so engaged in not just her emotional journey, but like you do get attached to the grunts. You do, get involved in the people, and that's what I think sets Ripley's character out so much. Is like, these are military people. They've seen a bunch of shit. It's crazy. But like the person who's most crazy, for lack of a better term, in this movie is still Ripley. Like she's still like the number one badass. Listen to me, like in a way where like these people have seen, as Quinn just noted, alien wars. They've been on other planets shooting bugs at some point, and it's still like she's the one you are most reliant on. It's almost like this sort of like insane bravery of like, whatever, like I know we've been through a lot, but you've been through something that you can't comprehend. So it's, it's interesting.
This movie also expands the lore of the aliens, the xenomorphs, in ways that I think a lot of stuff that people like, again, Ridley Scott's original is the standard, but this, like the idea of a queen, the idea of like their hive kind of, I mean, they don't have a hive mentality, but just that kind of way they like terraformed the part of the base that they took over, and the bringing humans back to use them as vessels that you put into a giant hive so that you can just use them as incubators is fucking gnarly. Like it's a lot of,
I feel like it's a hive mentality. The queen like tells them to stand down when she knows that she's about to destroy the eggs, but also the fact that these motherfuckers just blend in with the walls. They were just all in there. That's
the scene where they're coming down from above them is
oh my god, that scene is so goddamn scary. It is just like if y'all don't get out of here. And just the fact that you can't shoot them. It's just like
he makes use of all their traits,
powers,
all their abilities, and stuff in ways that are fun and suspenseful.
I thought like the original Alien was so terrifying, but this is like, it's as terrifying, but like in an action movie way, which like we really don't have that many action horror movies. And this like sort of falls into place where like you still are very scared for what's going on.
And there's something about 1986 when this movie came out is like, it all basically has to be practical. I know there's some like matte, backgrounds, and there's some, frame, whatever, like in-camera trickery, whatever you'd call it. But like the creatures, that shot of the alien coming out of the water in that little sewer area to scoop Newt is chilling, because I remember that shot, but I'm just seeing her in that wide standing in the water, and I'm like, oh, fucking aliens coming out of that. They're kind of like the raptors in Jurassic Park.
Absolutely.
Like it's very they're so overmatched in that way.
Everything that this movie has influenced since has never been as good. I mean, the raptors maybe withstanding, but like there's so many things that like Super 8 does the hive and the keeping the people. Stranger Things does it too. You know what I mean? Like there's lots of homages to this that happen. Like none of them will ever get the visceral terror that you get from these xenomorphs, and also from their strategy and their powers and all the other things.
The only part of the military I didn't like was how often the score for this futuristic movie was just like drums. Like it's like the military hasn't updated their musical signifiers. It's just like I'm like, give me some like sort of a future theremin or something for the military.
Yeah, come on, we know what the budget is in the US. They're not sending that to music. Yeah.
I mean, I'm going to bring this up later, but we also haven't talked about the aspect of really having to worry about Bishop and his fucking AI. Like that's another thing she has to worry about.
Yeah, she has to overcome her prejudice, which is an important lesson for all of us.
It's a beautiful message of the 80s. Yeah.
All it takes is seeing someone split in half right in front of you.
I'm all out of milk. So we talked about like Aliens is the classic example of sequel escalation. Everything's bigger, everything is more, and it's really well done. Maybe the best example of that the sequel can give you.
Except for
Terminator.
Except for Terminator 2, except for another James Cameron movie, right? Yeah.
What about Dark Knight?
Okay, there may be a couple other examples of a sequel escalation, but comparing it to the small scale terror and suspense that you get in one shack in Colorado, I do think these are interesting films to talk about in that way. I find that like most everybody in Aliens is giving a really good performance, but like Kathy Bates, who won the Oscar, which I was probably going to bring up when we talked about notable stats, she won her Oscar for this movie. I think it's her only Oscar. It was definitely her first Oscar.
Yeah, maybe about did she win for About Schmidt?
She may have won it again. Was that Titanic? I feel like she might have even won for something weird.
Maybe, but she might have been nominated.
Yeah. She is so scary in this movie, but again, it's not the kind of like.
She won.
She did win. Yeah.
Good for her.
She's so scary in this movie. She's deserving of that Oscar. And James Caan, who I don't know, Jason, your conception of a writer of Victorian romance novels, does that person look like James Caan to you?
It's Sonny from The Godfather, of course. Yeah, that's why he was so angry all the time. He couldn't come up with his endings,
That's right. That's why.
Look,
like I'd rather be shot through with 100 bullets than to have to come up with one more misery novel.
I think the funnier, like it's like Stephen King being like, I know I'm a nerd, but like, what if we got a hot guy to play me? It's like every sort of like,
you nailed it. That's what Stephen King thinks, because Stephen King is often, it feels like he's himself in a lot of these. But that's what Stephen King thinks writers are like. Is Jimmy Caan, Hollywood 70s sex symbol.
We have Ryan Gosling play me on this podcast, and I'm like, yes, I am 6 foot and live, someday.
I mean, I guess, Jason, what like when you first saw this movie, did it spook you? I mean, what was like I can
tell you, I saw it on TNT when it was raining at the beach when I was in like 5th grade, and I remember my parents were like, you could just watch TV, like, there's nothing to do at the Jersey Shore. Shout out New Jersey.
Hell yeah.
Sea Isle City. And I like remember being like, this movie looks boring. And then like 10 minutes in, I was like, oh, this is kind of creepy. And then like the rest of the week, I was like afraid of my elderly aunts, I'm like, stay away from me. I won't stay in bed. But it is like, and in watching it many, many times since, I think it's like one of the great contained horror movies. It just is. It's never not scary, even though what's coming, right? The leg hobbling scene is maybe one of the most famous scenes in cinema history. But it's like, even though what's coming, it's still very visceral. And I think like the suffering too is just like, I'm like, I don't want to be tied down either. But maybe Leonard and I share many other kinks, and neither of us are into
I want to say the nuances in this, like, just like every little thing, like, and I had seen this movie and I knew the movie, but like, when he escapes the first time and he knocks over the penguin, I'm like, God damn it, no, just like little things, like him knocking over a figurine. It's like, I'm freaked the fuck out, because we know the consequences of him getting caught for doing anything are going to be severe. And then if you don't know, the first watch for anyone of this movie has got to be wild. Like, not having any common knowledge about what's going to happen is got to be
absolutely
a jarring experience.
No Shots at Aliens, which is both of these movies traffic in suspense as much as horror, but like both very suspense, both successful movies. There is no shot or moment in Aliens, which I would think of as the scarier film, that is as terrifying to me as the fact that the camera does not. It's all about when you cut, right? And when you see that leg start to bend in, and then like I cannot watch that without like bringing my hands to my face or just kind of
I literally did that while I was watching it.
It's so grody.
They don't show the second one. They couldn't show this. If they would have showed it twice, it would have been like, no, this is.
I think Kathy Bates did like a DirecTV or some such commercial, and they were doing a series of commercials where they took famous films and they recreated the scene, and again, I probably have some of the details wrong, but it's basically like she's talking to us, the viewer, as if we are the writer, and she's saying like, without DirecTV you're not even getting all the channels, and she's like hefting that they, and I'm just like, no, this is, even the fucking DirecTV commercial is too scary for me. I don't like it. I mean, most of the rest I can get through, but
it goes down to like that. It's something that could happen to you. Like, look, I don't have that many fans of my writing ability, but like anytime I see a message on the comments or someone tweets how much they hate something, like
a couple of critics have threatened to hobble you, Jason.
Yeah, exactly. Yes, there's always someone coming around, but like it is like that next level of terror, right? It's like it could happen to you. We do see it happen online. Like made a joke about toxic fandom, but like I could see like a really creepy person like locking up whatever, like a Warner Brothers person being like, I need the other Zack Snyder movies. Like it just does feel like a thing, you know?
It's not even like not even the fandom part. Just like someone could just lock you up for some wild ass reason because they're a crazy person because they're psychotic.
Yeah. We see it on the news all the time. There's always like, oh, they found so and so living in a basement, you know, like whatever. Like it's terrifying.
And I think before we should transition into our 5 criteria, but I think part of the terror, part of it, when you hear those news stories about so and so locked a bunch of people in a basement, it's usually a guy, right?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely.
Let's be real. The numbers are not in our favor here.
There's usually a man involved, at least.
There's usually a man involved.
Absolutely.
Several men, you know, and so there is something about Kathy Bates who is otherwise not threatening. I think if you've seen Kathy Bates in anything before or since, you were not afraid of her. And something also about a woman who's a little bit older. She's not old, but you know, middle-aged. She's a little bit like, and a little bit. This is the kind of woman, I guess, that society would tend to overlook entirely. And Leonard, you brought up a good point, which is like, how does this person? And I know what you meant. You were getting at something different. It's like, how does this person exist in the world where people don't even, you know? Because this is the kind of thing where a woman like Annie Wilkes hits a certain age, if she was ever regarded at all, and nobody cares. And it's like, you live off in Colorado, you do your own thing. And you kind of get further and further and further into your mania where you are just building this world where it's like, if I could ever drag someone from the outside in here, they're living under my law. And I think it goes back to Jason, when you talked about like toxic fandom. We call people that are really toxic fans with the Eminem song Stan. I stand this, I stand that. I think if there's a term like Annie Wilkes has got it, we got to bring it back into the lexicon. I feel like there's a lot of Annie Wilkes out there that we're not thinking about, even though again it's overwhelmingly men in this situation. But that's I think part of what makes it so scary.
Do you think this was like a coincidence and it was like a moment where she took advantage of the situation, or do you think she had been fantasizing about this entire time?
Ooh, good question.
I'll be honest, in my rewatch, I was like, and again, I've read the book and I was pretty sure it wasn't in the book, but I was like, does she contrive the accident? You know what I mean? Like, so I was kind of almost waiting for that. So I do think your question, Leonard, was she waiting for this, or was it a crime of opportunity?
Yeah, a crime.
I think she was waiting for it.
You think she
maybe not to that extent. I think she's very much like there's a void there, and when she goes, well, you're not listening to me, so I have to punish you. I think
I thought it was a crime of opportunity, and she took advantage of the situation. I just love the tidbits, the suspense that is built throughout this movie. Just like the layers peeled back of how crazy she is. Cause the first conversation she has with him, she's like, oh yeah, I'm your biggest fan. And, you know, I know you come and write your books here. And, you know, I was just watching your cabin and thinking the light in the window and thinking about, I was like, wait, what? Bitch, you were outside of my cabin watching me? Like, hold on. This is before she reveals his legs to him. So it's like, all right, I'm going to get out of here. And then you see the legs and you're like, okay, I am stuck with this woman. Like, this is not good.
I definitely always felt that she had a hand in the crash, right? Because he swerves off the road and she's been watching him. Like, I don't think it was ever, I don't, look, I mean,
that's what I'm trying. I don't think it's ever made explicit. I don't know.
Yeah. I think the idea in my brain was like she's there for a very specific reason, and if she's been waiting, you know, like this is someone with a lot of time that can wait, that can do these things. And I kept thinking, like playing off the character, it's like society has no use for her, but she has use for society. You know, it's like, oh, I'm going to do this. I know I can find this guy. I know where I can be. I know where I can disappear. You know, like you said to your point about like she killed all these fucking babies, nobody knows where she is. Yeah, she knew where she was going. You know, like she had a great idea. Like, this is where I could be, and then it's like playing. But like, I don't think that's gospel, because I don't think she never says like, then I waited and put a rock in the road so your car would flip. You know what I mean? It's always like you said, hinted at but never prescribed. And
I mean, she did have a crowbar ready to pry him out of that car. So.
Exactly. Yeah.
So we haven't talked about Bugsy though. My man Bugsy, is it Buster? Buster. My man Buster. It's a Bugsy. Man, I love Buster, man, and it just sucks just knowing he's gonna get shot in the back.
Dude, I love the relationship. Total Doc Halloran treatment into The Shining. You wait for him the whole fucking movie to get like, I'm coming to save you. Bam, bam.
I just love that there was like a sane relationship in the movie. It was like, this is what people should interact with each other. These people have known each other their entire lives and they love each other. And it's like, it was just a cute relationship, this older couple. And it was just like, you needed that because the other 75% of the movie was just like, I am going to kill myself.
It's such a claustrophobic movie. It's true. Like to go onto this, like such a tame subplot is like a breath of fresh air. It's like, oh, thank God.
It releases the tension, but then the tension can come back. Like it's always in the back of your mind where you're like, I'm happy I'm out, but I'm also so worried about it.
Do you think she was a good cook? Do you think she was a good cook? Do you think her food
I think she put
good?
effort in.
Absolutely not. Absolutely
no.
not.
Oh, I think she was good. I think she followed the recipe. She read those books front to back. She knows how to read, you know?
I think it's one of those things where you're eating at someone else's house and you're not sure about that part of it, and then it's like he's eating and he like pulls out a screw or something. You know what I mean? Like
I feel like her food was. I feel like her food was good. And can you imagine like being stuck in the situation, be like, God damn, what did you put? What is it? What's in this? This is great.
She's so meticulous about everything. She has no reason to serve him bad food. She's like, you're here. I want you. I want you to write. Here's some sustenance.
I'll tell you what, though. I believe she thinks it's good. I'm just saying I don't think it's actually good. I'll tell you what, though. If I'm Jimmy Kahn, like I said, number one patient, I'm licking the bowl. I'm like, oh man, you gotta give me that recipe. Just continuing to butter up.
Some more porridge,
Oh, that's so good. Was that squirrel? Oh man. Okay, for real this time, let's move into our 5 criteria. These are patented 5-step way to figure out the best films selected this week. As always, we start off with pop culture. I think we've talked about a lot of those things, but let's just list them again. I think for Misery, it's the hobbling scene. I don't know that there's too much more. I mean, I guess just Kathy Bates' performance, she won the Oscar in general, is pretty iconic. I would say most people would associate her with this role. Maybe not, but I mean, a lot of people would associate her with this role.
I think in film genre too, it's like a Misery type situation comes up a lot. Like even with Get Out a couple of years ago, right? It's like it is that. You know what I mean? It's not that in Get Out, obviously super original, lots of things, but like it is a Misery type thing where like a guy but he's stuck with the family, right? He's stuck with something else. So I think
like a one location movie too.
If you're gonna add to it, exactly. Limited location, whatever. But I think the situation and the hobbling to me are the two biggest.
It's also a bit of a Hitchcock almost like Rear Window, like when he's like trying to get out and around there. The Hitchcock bed. Can you imagine like Jimmy Stewart in the bed and he's just being strangled by Kathy Bates? I think though this one probably goes to Alien, right? I mean, game over, man, game over.
Yeah.
They mostly come at night, mostly. First of all, what is night on that planet? I didn't see daytime on that planet once.
They re-released those Reeboks that Ripley is wearing like a few, like I think in 2020. I'm gonna say that like
her look in this movie is iconic. Sigourney Weaver's look in this movie, with the fucking kid over one arm and the flamethrower in the other.
Get away from her, you bitch! Right?
Get away from her, you bitch! Yeah. I will say this: if you've listened to this podcast, you know I was a weird child, cynical child. But I didn't like many things. I wasn't a Disney kid. I didn't like a lot of bullshit. But I loved Aliens. I had all of the Alien action figures.
Hang on.
It's crazy
all
to think
the Alien action figures. What is
did
it,
you not know that this was a very
Ripley?
big thing? Yes,
no.
You could buy all different types of Alien. There were like as the more movies came out, there were different type of. But I had hella xenomorphs and like. Would have people.
How would they differentiate them? Were you just buying the same one? The xenomorphs all look alike.
No, because you could get a queen. No, you could get a big queen. You get
there's like the Lucanen ones. They like had different color ones, and like when Alien 3, they like released different types of aliens and stuff. And like I think the fourth one, I was really into that as kids. So I don't know if that's really a huge thing in the zeitgeist or pop culture, but I remember it very specifically. Like, man, I need these Alien action figures. Like, so
did you do you hang with like the third and fourth Alien movie? I know we're in pop culture.
I think I've seen them all. I've seen Prometheus.
Jason,
I've seen
Prometheus all of them. And Covenant, but I don't think I've never seen 3, and I've seen parts of 4, but it never really held my interest. I think Ripley's a clone in that movie. Not interested.
Yeah, Ripley's a clone in the fourth one, and what's her name is in it. Winona Ryder's in it.
That's right.
It's a weird one.
But there is a dope ass. It's a weird one, but the scene where they have to swim, swim through the kitchen and go up the ladder, and she's carrying the dude with no legs like on her back. That is a fucking fire ass scene. That's like really the only memorable part of the movie, but the movie is so. But
Yeah, Aliens versus Predator is also weirdly fun. You know,
Oh, I never saw that.
That's a contained one, but it's like Adrian Brody and some other people, and they're just like on an island, like on a it's an island or a planet, doesn't matter, but like it's just populated by these, and the predators have come to hunt the aliens, like the ultimate prey, and then humans are there too. It's like more fun than it should be. I'm not going to pretend that it's like a great movie or that it's like land, like, you know. But if you just want to like tune out and get high, like it's a pretty fun one.
Isn't
I think you
Keegan
sold
Michael
Leonard.
Key? Isn't Keegan Michael Key in that one?
I
Or
think
that's
you
the
guys
new
might be-
Predator.
He's
That's
in the new Predator. Yeah,
That's what
yeah,
it is.
yeah,
That's
yeah,
what it is. The
new
new
Predator.
Predator. Yeah, I never saw that one. It just looked really stupid, and I didn't hear great things about Alien versus Predator, so I never saw it. But I should watch it.
It also feels like no shots of Predator. Maybe I need to watch it again, but it feels like it kind of cheapens Alien by continuously pairing it with Predator. I don't know. I feel like the Aliens, the first three
Predator's
Alien
just
movies,
so different. Yeah.
Say what you want about Alien 3. It was Ridley Scott, James Cameron, and David Fincher. And like that's like I kind of like that, like a different kind of.
I need to go back and watch it
filmmaker
because I
goes
don't
to this-
remember much from Alien 3.
I've never
Alien
seen
3's
it. I just know
it's in
he-
a prison. So like Ripley lands in a prison, and there's of course
Check
like,
your
this
action
weird-
figures, Leonard. It's all the bald ones in prison jumpsuits.
Yeah, it's like Oz but with aliens. But yeah, she's on a prison planet. Aliens infest. They
Alien
have to,
3
like,
is
work together.
controversial, spoiler, but that movie fucking starts. And I was thinking about that again, a movie I've not seen, but I was thinking about that at the end of this movie, which has such a nice kind of ending. And in fairness, this is not a nice world, I guess. But like Ridley puts she's come through and she likes the android, and she puts him in his little pod, and she puts Newt in a pod, and she goes, "You can sleep now, sweetie, you can dream." And then they go in, and Alien 3 starts with them crash landing on a planet. Everyone is dead, including Newt, who's like 8. And Ridley gets her head shaved, and she's thrown in a hole, and she's in this prison population. It's just like, you really had to do Newt like that. Newt hasn't gone through enough. Forget Michael Biehn.
There's also like, I don't know how you pitch a sequel, and you're like, the way to get rid of Newt is to kill her on screen.
Off screen.
You know?
Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah, just like in text. And Newt, who we all learned to love, and she risked her life for at the end of Alien 2, is dead. It's a little bit like Poochie was called back to his home planet.
I mean, they had to kill her. She wasn't 8 in 1993 anymore. You know,
they should have just done what they did with the cat, which is have her be like, "And you're staying here this time." And then she
exactly.
Fucks off.
Yeah.
So I feel like pop culture, obviously, it's aliens.
Yeah, hands down.
Do these movies hold up, though? That is our second point.
I feel like they both hold up.
Yeah, they kind of both hold up pretty well, actually. I think fan culture, toxic fandom kind of makes Misery as relevant as it's ever been. And
I also love that they did the little slight bit of like racism where he's like, that Dago. I was like, oh my God. Oh, okay. I forgot about that part. So she for sure would be a QAnon racist ass Mr. Pollard fucking.
Right. I have actually, Leonard, and this is a sensitive subject, so let's discuss it now on the podcast with no prep. But as a person of color, when you see those moments, because for me, watching things, when a character is like evil, like just straight up evil, that's always the point. And then in like the third act, this happened recently. I'll give a specific example with the Netflix series. Oh my God, help me out, Jason. It was about vampires, and it came out as about religion and vampires, and it was a series.
Not True Blood?
No, god damn it. I'm gonna find
on
it
Netflix?
right now. Yeah.
I don't think it was The Witcher.
I hate that I don't have this right now, because it's actually kind of it's actually kind of it's the guy who did those Netflix series that are always The Haunting of, Hill House.
Yes. Oh shit.
He did a show.
And he's awesome. Yeah.
He's great.
Yes.
I'm really ruining the flow of this podcast.
Yeah, what an example you've given
Mike
us.
Flanagan. Okay, here
Mike
we go.
Flanagan, yeah.
Mike Flanagan made a show, we're getting there, in 2021 called Midnight Mass. Ooh,
Midnight Mass. Yeah, I totally forgot they were
Midnight Mass, spoiler alert, halfway through the runtime you find out it's about vampires, okay? And there's this character who it's about vampires, but it's about vampires as viewed through an island of people who are deeply religious. So they see blood from a vampire as like, and it brings people back to life. So they see that like the blood of Christ, drink from me and live for, like, whatever that might be Anne Rice. But anyway, they see all these vampire things as religious things. And it's actually kind of fascinating because it's about religious dogma and all that stuff. So there's a character who's like the kind of town busybody. She's super religious. She's like, didn't see you at church. She's one of those people. And at the end of the series, she has gained a lot of power within the community. She's also a vampire. And so they're choosing, because the sun's about to come up, who gets to go in the church. And then like the next evening, they're going to go out and expand beyond the island. And they're going to start spreading their vampire stuff. And there is a person of color on the island. They're Muslim. That's just their religion. That's not their race, I know. But she says to him at some point, she calls him like, she makes a 9/11 joke or something like that. She says something racist. And I, watching this, was like, it's that thing. It's like, we already hate this character. This is where I was getting at, Leonard. We already hate this character, and it feels like not overkill. This character probably would be racist, but it's always just, I wouldn't say it's funny. It's fucked up. It's always just funny when characters like, it feels like in the writers' room, they're like, how can we get this character who's already despicable to be a little bit worse?
Yeah. It's lazy writing.
And he will. They're like, just have him call someone a slur. And it's like, that is how we get to hate them just a little bit more. So I don't know if those things to you, Leonard, if that feels like opportunism, or if it's just like, these characters probably would be racist anyway. I don't know, but
yeah, the line is pretty crazy because the way she says it is the D word. Is that a slur? Like, is that a bad? Like, dude, I don't know. Like, I've never been around Italian people.
Honestly,
like
I think you can pretty much call Italian people whatever you want. But I feel
like
I think the equivalent.
No lie, Italian people get it the worst. Like, people always you do Italian accents and shit, and like
Mario.
Yes. But the way she's like, I'm just gonna say it again. She's like, "Oh yeah, like who's that Dago that painted the what is it called?" It's like, what? Hold on. What is happening right now?
I know here's what I a quicker way of saying the same thing. It feels like seasoning on a meal of a villain. And it's like, let's throw in a sprinkle of racism just so you really know you hate him on all fronts. And I mean,
she's already done so many despicable things. Like, it would be. I mean, I don't know. Like just jump in as the writer, but like, it does feel lazy. Like, unless it was like a QAnon character, like if you remade this movie, then if you'd be like, yeah, okay, this absolutely tracks. These people are human garbage. But like, at that point, I think when it happens, we've already revealed her like murderous backstory too. So it's like, it's almost a bridge too far. And also like a weird one that it's like, not only does she hate this, she hates Italians too. Like, like such a weird way.
I think they were just trying to paint her as like being very ignorant.
Yeah.
And because
backwards,
the Dom Perignon and like other things. And it's just like.
That's true.
But I mean, I still feel like overall this movie holds up, and I feel like this could happen today in 2022.
It might be happening right now. Do we have any idea?
Has anyone checked on Stephen King? He was in a car accident. Okay, this is fucking. Stephen King got in a pretty significant car accident in 1999 or thereabouts after this movie and the book had been written and came out. And I wonder if in that moment where he's lying on the side of the road, he's like, "Oh, I hope to God I'm not found by Annie Wilkes." And if you're Stephen King, you write fucked up shit for a living. He probably was thinking he might be. Like the guy who picked him up, he's like, "Thank God you're not Annie Wilkes." Oh, are we going to the hospital? Yeah, sure, Stephen. We'll be right there. He just takes a left.
We're on our way now. Yeah. Oh God.
I feel like Aliens holds up very well.
There's
capitalistic
the only
interest. They only care about the money and weaponizing these aliens, and no one cares or believes what women say. And
well, regardless of their trauma, we're still going to this place. It's like, wait a minute,
let's all just mock her and right in front of her as she tries to explain how we're all about to die.
I feel like the only part, and you ding any movie after 5 years that depicts the future, is like, I always love those things where it's like there's a little TV by our hospital bed, and then it flickers on and off with static. It's just like the way that the future in 1986 they thought the future is like, it's gonna be, there's still gonna be static when screens.
Hey, they were making video calls. There was a video call, but
they were doing video calls. There was a little FaceTime on.
I realized this after watching. Did we see Paul Reiser's character die? Did I blank on that?
No, and that was my one thing, is that I could have done for at times a little bit more grisly alien kills. We saw him back up and then the door open and the alien was behind him and then it got him, but they cut. So yes, he's dead. No, we don't see it. And I do feel
want to see this motherfucker die. Like,
those suits are very scary, but I do wonder and I'd rather them do it practical. So it's all good. I've seen what a CGI alien looks like and it's not always better, but like in the more recent Ridley Scott versions, but like there are those moments where I'm like, oh man, you'd really like to see this thing rip into this thing. But I think that as little as you think about it being a guy in a suit, the better. So they keep those shots quick and I do think it makes for a scary.
Speaking of holding up, these effects, they still look good to me. I mean, the spaceship like flying into the planet like the toy ships is
Yeah,
always
except
funny.
the little model. Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
the little models are always funny, but I still think sometimes it looks better than some CGI. Like, I don't know.
Yeah.
So like if you can, if the directing is great, there's only so much you can do in 1986. But
Sure.
I felt like it held up pretty well. I didn't really have too many complaints.
Here's one more thing before we move forward. Like, and this is that kind of thing. Jason, you're a screenwriter. Maybe you can speak to this better than I, but that kind of thing where it's like we accept coincidences in the first act much more than we do in the third act, where they start to feel like Deus Ex Machina. But the fact that Ridley wakes up, okay, maybe we don't know how much time has passed, but we probably agree that it's not more than like 6 months that she's on that ship before going with the Marines. That's probably too much time. So she wakes up, she's like, hey, we went to this planet. There's a fucking bunch of eggs over there, guys. And they're like, we just, first of all, not only do we know that we haven't heard shit, we're terraforming that planet. Everyone's fine. And then like the next night, Paul Reiser gives the old video call and he goes, we've lost contact with that planet. So it's like 57 years after that moment. Okay, sure. They set up shop. They don't fully scope the whole planet. They start terraforming it, but it's like now the aliens have taken over. You know, what are they only checking in every 10 years? It seems like it's pretty convenient timing that like Ridley just woke up and they're like, let's get her over there. But
that part didn't really make much sense. It's like, if the aliens were there 57 years ago, then how the fuck, you know, and y'all.
Yeah, because I think they said they'd been there for 20 years by that point or something like that. Like there's a full community.
Yeah.
Anyway.
I mean, I don't have an answer there. I just like it's one of those things I always say, like, if you don't buy in, you don't buy in. And
right.
And like, that's sort of one of those, like, yeah, I mean, it's a coincidence. It's an act one coincidence. If it happened at the end, you're like, the aliens have just shown up. You'd be like, fuck you. But for now, I think, you know, yeah.
Let's go into our third and most important criterion. Leonard, do you want to ask this one?
Regina Hall in either one of these movies? I don't think I saw Regina Hall in either one of these movies. Was she?
Famous, funny woman, Regina Hall. A woman on the edge? Sometimes. Some of her characters.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, 100%. You could be a woman on the edge.
Famous woman on the edge, Regina Hall.
Have you ever seen Support the Girls?
No.
That would have been a good pick, too. But she plays the one on the, But excellent movie.
Well, that's like the movie about a Hooters-esque restaurant, right? Where she works?
Yeah.
Yeah. I heard that she's great in that. And we love Regina Hall and everything, except for these
Misery
movies.
Was set in Colorado in the 90s, so there were no black people in it.
Still no black people in Colorado.
Yeah, I was going to say, nothing's changed.
And I think Aliens came out in 1986 when she was like 7 or something, 8 years old or something like that. But so she really didn't have a chance to be in Aliens. But if she were in Aliens or in Misery, who would she? I can see modern day Regina Hall playing an Annie Wilkes for sure.
Ooh, that would be a very interesting. That would really allow her to stretch. I do feel like we have seen, for comedic purposes, her go a bit crazy. Her go a bit big.
Oh, what would that be? Where would
that would be in Leonard the scary movie films, particularly 1 and 3. But usually that's played for comedy. And now I agree that our girl Regina has range, but I am wondering if she could be Annie Hall. I don't know if I'd be as scared of Regina. Again, this is me in the hospital bed scenario. I think we'd just be laughing. I'd just be laughing at her jokes and she'd let me go. So I'm not sure. That's a tough one. I think she could be like a military grunt, but you know, I don't know. I wouldn't trade.
I think it'd be fun. I don't know. Like, I think her interest, like, it'd be interesting to take that sort of bubbly personality and then have it be terrifying. You know, it's like you think that's
that. I think
she
could drop that in.
But I also think like without it being too problematic, like she would be an excellent James Caan writer style, like Toxic Phantom thing. Like she could play actress Regina Hall gets tied up by Leonard or whoever. You know what I mean? Like,
okay.
By this
tied
podcast,
up by Leonard. He likes that part.
You guys are the toxic fans who tie her up as her whatever, and then you're like, tell us who you'd be in all these movies in our back catalog of things. You know,
I think there's a better chance of Regina Hall tying us up for making an entire category about her and never once picking a movie with her.
Well, I did pick a movie that she was in for a bonus episode, Paid in Full. So that happened. She has been on the podcast. She's been featured on the podcast before.
Yeah,
but not for
this
actual episode.
I'd like to see her as a military one of the Marines. I think she could play a Marine.
Absolutely.
For sure.
Yeah,
100%.
I love that line. Independent from that, where Vasquez, who is a very tough female Marine, part of the unit, and Bill Paxton, who is the comedic relief, the overly confident, under courageous Marine, where they cut out and he says to Vasquez, who's like doing pull-ups or something, he's like, "Hey Vasquez, you ever get mistaken for a man?" And then she goes, I don't know, have you? And I'm like, that's great. Just give it right back to old Bill Paxton.
So good.
Take that, Bill.
Yeah. Okay, let's move into criteria number 4, stats, box office, reviews. Leonard, do you want to go or should I? I got some.
Yeah, I'm right here ready. All right, Aliens, surprisingly, I'm just going to talk about the budget real quick. It was only made for $18.5 million. I mean, that's a lot of money in 1986.
That budget is mostly milk.
18.5 million, and it made between 131 and 183 million. Maybe that's domestic and international, is what I'm seeing. On Rotten Tomatoes, it is a 97%, and on IMDb, it is an 8.4%. So
consistent with the quality of the movie, I would say. Yeah. I mean, I know James Cameron has come to be slightly more. I think just taking decades between movies and his whole 3D push. I know I wouldn't say he's a controversial filmmaker, but he's a little bit more maligned nowadays. But I mean, like James Cameron in the 80s was pretty good.
There's not
really
like,
miss.
I'll maintain that he has no misses for his entire career. He has no misses because he takes time. And
even Avatar?
Yeah, I don't think Avatar's missed at all. I think it's such an interesting and good idea. And look, did he spend a little bit more time on the technology than the story? Sure, but like, there's a reason everybody saw that movie, and I think, like, as a mechanism and also as whatever. Yeah, I mean, I'm excited for Shape of Water or whatever.
The Way of Water. The Way of Water.
I'm going to tell you this.
You know how water has a way.
Will there be any sex in it? Yeah.
I saw Avatar in theaters, but not on the original release. They re-released it a year later, the next summer.
Just to push it over
me
that
being me, I was like, this movie, I'm not seeing it. And everybody saw it, and I heard about the story and I was just like, no, I'm not watching this. And then I went and saw it in theaters, and I was tripping on mushrooms, and I went and saw the re-release with like 3 people in the theater, and I was tripping balls, and I love that movie. I had a coming to Jesus moment during this movie. And then I saw it like months later, like high, and I was like, this movie sucks.
Well, the problem was you had on your 4D glasses when you saw it the first time, Leonard. You
were
just floating out in space.
And I haven't seen it since.
They're re-releasing it in September. It's coming back
to
theaters in September. Yeah, to prime everybody. And I will say I'm very good friends with Dileep Rao, who plays one of the scientists in the movie, and he just has like the best stories of shooting that movie and how everybody at the time was like, "What? Like you're doing what? Like why are you doing this movie? Like what is it?" And then just obviously it becoming.
Why are you doing
like,
this big budget Jim Cameron movie? Are you stupid?
Exactly. Yeah. Well, that movie he hadn't done a movie since Titanic. Right?
Titanic.
Yeah. People were like, "You don't want to do this." But,
just to honor your friend Talik Brown, I'll go see it again in theaters. I'll go with an open mind. We'll see what happens.
Yeah, it's a good one. He's also in Inception. He had a good run there.
Oh, I fucking love Inception.
Inception, Avatar, and Drag Me to Hell. 3 years.
Oh, shit. Wow.
Yeah.
I hope the Avatar sequel is not too long, or else I might have to take a Way of Water break. That's right. You guys get this.
All right, what are your stats for Misery? What are your stats for Misery, Quinn?
Oh, boy.
Misery. Okay. Made for $20 million, made $60 million. Pretty good. It is impressive that
wait a second, Misery had a larger budget. I mean, I'm sure after inflation, it's not.
You know how many beds they had to buy for James Gunn?
That's crazy that movie cost $20 million.
I do wonder because even Kathy Bates, though, in 1990, she wouldn't have been commanding that high a salary to inflate a budget that much. James Caan maybe, but that's one. And
Rob Reiner directing, right?
Rob Reiner directed. Yeah, we haven't even talked about that. Rob Reiner was on an incredible heater in the 80s too.
Yeah. Coming off of When Harry Met Sally and The Princess Bride, right? Is it? And this is the
third.
And
what were his other movies from the 80s? The mockumentary about the rock band.
This is Spinal Tap.
Yeah. This is Spinal Tap.
But I was good to 11. Oh, I love that movie so much.
I think the range of Rob Reiner is very impressive. That he could make all those movies that are very different.
Speaking of Princess Bride, that's how this podcast was created.
That's right.
Jason, you obviously have seen Princess Bride, but I have a question for you. Have you seen the movie Harlem Nights?
I have seen Harlem Nights.
Oh,
with
Jason has seen Jason has seen everything. I think you just trump Leonard.
I mean, there are a few people out there. Usually they're comedians or people, but like I always just think it's funny how people will have this cult following The Princess Bride and love it, and they'll always have this acclaim for it, but then they've never seen Harlem Nights that came out like a year later.
I think that's very fair. I mean, I'm telling you, I'm probably one of the only people who've seen both, but I am just a big fan of that cast. So
okay, cool.
Yeah,
Jason. It's funny because Leonard started this podcast based on that dichotomy: the fact that white people will be like, "You haven't seen The Princess Bride." Yeah. And then you, Leonard, if as a black person, you go to people and be like, have you seen Harlem Nights? And people are like, no. And you started this podcast based off that. And I still haven't seen Harlem Nights. So I think it's a fair point.
I know I keep like waiting for the right moment to choose it, and I haven't chosen it yet, but it's going to happen.
You got to do it. I think you'll like it. I'd be surprised if you didn't.
I own it on DVD, so whenever it happens, I'll just give you my DVD. I still have your Bond DVD that
You gotta give me my Bond DVD back.
Yeah.
You're holding it hostage. All right, so just to round out the stats for Misery, 90% Rotten Tomatoes, 7.8 on IMDb. Okay. And so
solid numbers.
Yeah, we can differ on the discrepancies there, but they both made money. They both are well received. And now, stats being, I feel like we've exhausted most points of conversation. It's been a thorough episode, but now we are in the final arguments portion of the program. Now, Jason, this is where you have some decision making to do. You can factor in or not any of the arguments that we've made so far just in conversation, but before you choose, Leonard and I get to say one final thing, and then we put it to you.
Good. Yeah, I mean, make it count because I am teetering.
Leonard, I feel like I think when someone's back's against the wall, they go last. Is that fair?
Yeah, you can go first.
Yeah, I think that's a courtesy. Otherwise, I would take I think I'm due to go second this time, but I'm going to give that back. So
this is game 7 for me.
Okay, here we go. I'm going to be quick. I think we both talked about these movies. I think it's basically going to come down to what Jason feels better encapsulates the prompt, which could go a number of ways. I would say Leonard's probably going to bring up that in this movie about women on the edge, Kathy Bates has already driven a locomotive off the edge, like James Caan driving his car in the snow. He is over the edge, and I can't disagree with that. But I do think, I guess the crux of my argument would go down to a point that I already made, so I'll be brief. But it's the idea that Kathy Bates, her performance is so good, this movie is so good, it works because this is not the type of person, that's not the type of the way she looks, the way she that you would ever find horrifying. She's got a little bow in her hair and her hair's all back. She's not a haggard old witch living in the forest. She outwardly, you might mistake her for presentable if you just saw her driving down the block or whatever. But the fact that within this woman, this otherwise ordinary seeming woman, is the depths of like depravity and despair, and that she makes you believe that this is a true woman on the edge movie. This is a woman who will do anything to get the very minor thing of her favorite novelist to just bring her character back to life. I think we've all been in that place where we love a character, we love a decision, we hate that something happened. Game of Thrones. A lot of people would like to take David and Dan, strap him down to a bed and make them redo that last season. So I think the realistic horror, I think the performance from Kathy Bates, who steals that movie, even though it's both of them, we remember one person from this movie.
Sure.
I think it makes it kind of the ideal woman on the edge movie.
All right. It's a good argument. We were talking about women on the edge, and that is Sigourney Weaver's character, Ridley. She's literally on the edge. She has been floating in space in hypersleep for 57 years. She's on the edge of the universe mentally. She just watched all her friends, her crew, get murdered by these aliens. She has apparently an 11-year-old daughter. Back home.
Once they cut that scene, I think it's decanonized, but you can put that in your head.
Okay. Anyways, she has lost everything. She cannot sleep. She can't go a single night without waking up and having these dreams. She's trying to hold it all together. She's trying to inform this crew of what they are about to face. She's making brash decisions. She is so on the edge. She comes up and tells Paul Reiser's character that she's going to report him to the police and everything. Doesn't tell anybody else. She's just so brazen and just like she's not completely thinking things through, because this entire movie, her mind is a million different places, but she also has to be the hero. In Misery, this woman is in fucking La La Land. She's not on the edge, okay? She's in the zoo. She's fucking, I don't know where she is, but she is, I guess not James Conner's the victim of circumstance, but she happened to luck into this moment and she took advantage of it. And I don't think she's a woman on the edge. I think she's just a shitty psychopath who just happened to luck into the best situation ever for her. And, you got to be past the age when you're saving clippings of you killing babies. Like, what is the edge if she's not surpassed that? So even like, not to like bash Misery, it's just like Aliens. Literally, she's on a ship, she's stuck, she's trying to get off this planet. She is on the edge in every single possible way. And you're rooting for her to succeed. You're rooting for her to win. And you think she does until Aliens 3. And you're excited for her. And I think even though she succeeds and she wins, she's still on the edge. She is forever on the edge. She is the edge. And you don't want to fuck with her. And I think that is why why Alien encapsulates that it's the best woman on the edge film.
Okay, Jason, you've heard our arguments. We've talked plenty about both movies. You can take as much or as little time as you want. Walk us through or don't. Your decision.
Yeah, I mean, look, I think you both presented really good arguments. And honestly, it's hard to say like how excited I was when I got your movie picks, not just because I love inherently both movies, but I thought they both actually did a really good job of taking the prompt in two different directions. For me, Misery is a much more traditional version of this character. It's someone who is a psychopath and has gone so far that I think Leonard put it well. It's like, we have no idea when she could ever get back. And I also think Aliens is such a great outside the box pick because Ripley is not who you would traditionally call a woman on the edge, but she is that. I mean, she definitely is. And the way you argue it, but also the way we talk about the movie, what she's doing, all the brash and rash things she's done, I think are interesting. The reason I'm going to pick Misery is, I know, is that I think Ripley is able to come back from the edge, and we see, despite knowing what happens in the sequels, I know, I'm so sorry, Leonard, that movie ends with her not on the edge, right? I think you even said it. It's like, have a sweet lullaby, I'm tucking people in, she's forgiven, robots, she's a mother again, like, because of her willingness to come back, I think that's why I'm not picking it. And I know that sounds crazy, but I'm picking Misery because Kathy Bates is committed to the edge the whole time, never leaves, continues to get worse and worse.
She's living on that edge.
Yeah, she redefines what the edge is.
She built a shack on the edge.
Yeah, like we know that she's crazy from the opening moments, but she keeps getting worse and worse. And I think like if we thought the edge was just being a psycho fan, she's always taken to the next step, whether it's hobbling him, whether it's being, as we've discussed, openly racist later, whether it's killing a bunch of babies and going off, she's always willing to push that line a little further. And I think because there's no catharsis, I'm picking her because she stays on the edge, and that to me makes the most sense. And I'm aware that Aliens is one of my favorite movies of all time. Like, I will openly watch that again this week. I will never turn Misery back on just because of how PTSD it gives me listening to people's notes and terribleness. But that's what my decision is. I really don't love it because I think like Aliens might be a more important movie. Yeah,
Leonard's staring a hole in the back of your head. Now,
yeah, exactly. I really wish this wasn't on
podcast,
Zoom right now, but yeah.
I feel like it's coming over in the audio that you can hear me smiling, listeners. I hope you can, because I am. And I was just doing a little celebration dance. I didn't want to let my yips out while Jason was talking, giving an eloquent and lovely explanation for why he chose my film. Leonard, I've gotten angry on this podcast before when the pick didn't go my way. I'm sure to see your 3-time back-to-back reign end has got to be tough. Can you let us in on how you're speaking? Get angry with it, whatever you want to do. Spit acid blood on us.
How the fuck did I lose this episode? Okay. How the fuck did I lose this? I really thought I had this in the bag. I was
worried
just
that you
so
might too.
nonchalant.
You were on your game.
I've been off this season. I've been very complacent, and this is what I need. I feel like the 2013 San Antonio Spurs. I'm coming back next season with a fucking vengeance. Okay, I should have won this. Fucking Jason is fucking Ray Allen shooting that fucking bullshit three.
I'm popping him up. Yeah.
I am pissed off right now. I thought that I was going to be able to make a comeback and win this season because the first few episodes, you know what?
Go speak your truth, man.
You brought in the ringer for the knockout.
Oh, come on.
You got me. Somebody had set some bad juju for me because I would have had a win earlier this season. I would have had a little bit more momentum. I should have went more of a crazy woman, a psycho biddy type of person. That was smart. When I was watching Misery, I was like, damn, I feel like
it's definitely which way you interpret the prompt.
Edge.
Yeah.
But the original thought was psycho biddy, and Aliens doesn't fit that at all.
No,
so
I thought you were going to make you were going to make an argument that like even the alien queen was a woman on the edge. A woman doesn't have to be human. I'm not trying to do your job for you, Leonard, but you had a couple.
I thought I had it in the bag, and these first. I didn't take notes one time this season, and it's come back to bite me in the ass. But you know what, Quinn? You did this win bad because I don't know if I would have won this season. I don't know if Quinn. I don't know if there would have been a season. I don't know if there would have been a season 5.
I have to throw in the towel. Just retire.
If Quinn would have lost 4 straight to me, I don't know if there would have been a season 5.
I definitely would have been trying to put new rules in place.
Look, it was close. I think.
Hey, and don't go after Pride of Philadelphia, Jason Hellerman, Leonard. I lost last season with a member of Lemon Pepper Wet. We were picking best Denzel movie. You want to talk about walking into the fucking furnace with your back against the wall? I was like going against Jordan in a game 7. There's no way I was winning that.
This is the earliest someone has won a season of Film versus Film. It's always been episode 8 or 9. This is episode 7. A 5-2 win, which means you are the overall lead in the entire season.
The rest is just bookkeeping, Leonard. The important thing is that I get to punish you. I'm gonna tie you to a bed.
I was thinking about this too, and I was like, "Oh shit, we're going on this fucking bachelor trip together." Like,
I thought you were gonna call back the face sitting.
Yeah, we'll see where I get into. I don't want to I don't want to threaten Leonard with a good time. But.
The first 2 season wins were pretty tame, so don't get too extreme. Don't get too extreme, but
I'm trying to think of what's your time? How long can you hold your breath, Leonard? Just curious.
12 seconds.
At what's the G-force level by which you start to pass out? Just curious when I'm planning something.
So wait, does that mean this is the season finale then, huh?
No, we got a couple more episodes, man.
We're not doing 2 more. I'm not talking about.
We always finish out the 9. We'll be back, Leonard. We'll be back in some way, shape, or form. Jason,
I don't want to do this anymore.
Jason, now you know how I feel.
God damn it.
Jason, thank you so much for being on the podcast. Hey, Leonard is floundering. He usually does this part, but I'm going to do it. Please, where can people find you? Do you have anything to plug? Anything to let us know about?
You can find me at Jason Hellerman on Twitter and Instagram. I have nothing to plug yet, but I'll plug something later if I have it. And happy to be on. Would love to come back and finally sign with Leonard. And
you'll never be back. No, sign with me. Wait, hold on. Yes, all right, Jason.
Nope, sorry, one and done. Jason Hellerman. You're like the 76ers. You get 1 championship.
Wow!
I saved that joke for after the real winner has been crowned. By the way.
Wait, hold on. They got a championship? I think that happened before 1984, so therefore...
Oh, that's true. We also, in sports, it's a hard 1984 rule, which really sucks for my Yankees. But, most of our championships were before integration, so how much do I really want to brag about them on this
how can you
podcast?
brag about championships before you were fucking born, Quinn? Get out of here.
Yeah.
I'll just talk about the 5 that happened in my lifetime.
Yeah, exactly. I know when you were like, you still got a lot.
You know what? There's one note, and I want to leave on this, that I didn't mention for Does It Hold Up for Aliens. And it's the fact that everybody in that first act, when the future bureaucrats, as I like to call them, Paul Reiser chief among them, they all are in the thing wearing suits that look very much like 1980s suits. However, the part where the collar separates, the part that goes around the back of the neck, that is popped. And at first I was like, is this a production error? Like the costume designer didn't catch this shit. And then they're in the boardroom and everyone's popped. So I just like the idea on a budgeted movie. This is how they saved the money, got that budget down to 18.5, is they said, future suits, we just pop the back collar. And they all did that shit. It's the weirdest stuff. If you're watching the Aliens, check that out. It is confusing. Anything else, Leonard?
I hate you.
Okay, Jason, you've been a delight.
Thank you so much for having me. Yeah.
We should all get together for Avatar: The Way of Water. You, me, Leonard, anyone else? We will see you at the cinema.
Yeah.
Let's do some shrooms.